Hey guys, Mike here. So, oh boy, what another nice green day today. We gave some of it back, but still ended up super green. It's so funny when I did that video yesterday. That was out and done well before we got even Elon Musk talking, President Trump talking, any of those guys talking about it. Like I said, the market's just there going, please, please give us some headline on China or whoever and all that fun stuff. So, of course, you saw where he said, he's not going to fire Jerome Powell after hours. And, of course, then the China news came out and it was like, okay, that's interesting. And of course, today we've seen that kind of get rolled back, right? As the day kept going on, as far as people thought, oh, they're going to lower tariffs now. And then, of course, they say, no, we're not going to lower tariffs at all. We're going to have to get a trade deal done. But then I made some notes here because it was just nuts because like, all day this stuff was coming out. Because, like I said, the market, look, the market don't care what's true or false. They don't even, they're just going, please, dear Lord, give us anything to try to get a spark to try to push this up to get one of these big, 10% multi-day like relief rallies up into these moving averages to retest them. And then we get to see, what the market wants to do after that, of course. And I'm going to keep you updated on what's happening here because, like I said, I have notes here. And it's very important to understand as this unfolds, okay? This whole moving circus is what I've started to call it now. But, of course, we'll get into the charts and stuff because a lot of these high beta stuff stocks are testing these resistance area, which I marked out probably a week or two ago and getting rejected at them. So we'll see if they can break through. Also, we'll talk about Tesla and NVDA, and then we'll go over SPY because there's certain key levels you definitely need to mark on that for the next few days right here that are going to be key. But of course, I like to laugh. And so, of course, the memes have come full force. So I sorted through at least 100 of them and say these definitely are the memes of the week for sure. So you just got to laugh, man. One is this right here, the art of doing nothing. That's the Chinese president. He says, Xi reminds America for a moment how terrifying rising yields can be. This one, I hold the cards. The cards are made in China, which that's actually true. Our cards are made in China. And then this one right here, I love one of my members added the names of this. But Howard and Ludnick and Peter Navarro tied up somewhere, thrown in a closet. You don't even see those guys anymore talking about this. And ever since they've been gone, especially Navarro, like the market obviously formed a bottom down there. Was it a temporary bottom? We don't know. But here's what President Trump said yesterday.
None whatsoever. Never did. The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No.
Which, of course, this came out today, which, of course, we know this is not true. It already said, because it says the White House and lawyers have been tasked with reviewing options on removing the Fed chair. Up until Trump announced Tuesday he had no intention and never did of sacking Powell. The president cooled his jets after advisors said it would cause more problems than it would solve. And we know this is true because this is one of his top advisors last week.
And going off of my colleague's question, do you think firing Jay Powell is an option now in a way that it wasn't before?
The president and his team will continue to study that matter.
And so that was on the 18th. So, of course, the good thing is the president is listening to hopefully the right advisors at this point in time, which seems to be Bissett and then, which is the Treasury Secretary. And again, even Elon Musk, supposedly they're getting in shout matches because Elon Musk has come out and said today, I can only try to get tariffs lower. That's what I believe in. But, so ain't going to listen to me. It is what it is. And so, because he's in a tricky situation where, he has to make sure, I'm talking about Elon Musk right now, he can't leave on bad terms because remember he has SpaceX. They get a lot of government contracts. So he don't want to burn that bridge. But on the other side, like he said on the earnings call, or I think even today he said it, which was like the Optimus robot. Like they're having to delay and they're going to have trouble producing those robots because of what? The China retaliation when they actually cut down the exports of rare earth minerals that have those magnets. They need that. Well, we're not getting that. So that is a problem. Okay, that's something we hadn't really even felt right now. But China's smart. They know when you're the number one consumer in the world, you depend on countries for a lot of different things. So they know where to hit you at. And so that's why China has retaliated on multiple different fronts, right? And so, of course, and Elon can't just go, well, I'm out of here. He did say on the call last night, I'm not leaving 100%, but I'll definitely be at Tesla more because now the team is in place and stuff. And so, of course, that's another reason Tesla got to rally and everything because, obviously car sales were, atrocious. Most people are going to say, no, it's because they shut down the factories. Maybe it is. Maybe we'll see what happens. I don't know. Because if you look at revenues, they're already dipping on car sales even before this year came along. So, we'll see if that's what the case is or not. again, robots, autonomous taxis, and Tesla does not trade off that kind of stuff. It is all about the options market. Okay, with this stock, I'll show you today because people tried to short it today, and I think they got burned because that's the one stock you have to know the options market on. You have to. If you're not paying attention to that, the options flow, what's happening, you're gonna get smoked on that stock. The rest of them, maybe not, but that is definitely one for sure. And I'll go into Saturday's video. By the way, put your questions down the bottom of Saturday's video because people are asking about this, about, you know, where do you see this thing going? How do you think it's going to end? What do you think the negatives and positives are and stuff? And we'll talk it out together because there's been quite a few. Now, looking at the SPX right here, the S&P, obviously, thought we closed above this 21 EMA is what we talked about. I think it's the SMA actually, excuse me, for me. We ended up closing below it, got a gap below it. So not going to be surprised if we come down and fill that gap before moving up. But above that is going to be the battlefield, right? We got this huge daily candle. That I'm going to call it the Trump news candle, right? That was when he paused. Well, we hadn't taken out either side of this thing. And that's shocking because we're like 8 or 9 days in, we still have not taken out the top. And so if we get above that, you're talking about they got that downtrending line right there. It's going to be resistance. You also have the 300 moving average right above that gap right there. Got the all-time high anchor VWAP, 50 Fibonacci's right there. Resistance is right there. So that's going to be a battlefield trying to get where about 5478 to 5200, I believe it is. So that right there is going to be tough resistance. At least it should be, unless we get some kind of crazy news coming out that, you know, President Trump and the Chinese president is actually speaking and trying to work out a deal. And, you know, that we'll have to see, but that's going to be a major deal right there. Obviously, what you don't want to do is break this low right here, because now what we're seeing as a low, and then there's a higher low, right? So around like 5106, I believe that is. Do not want to break that. Okay, you break that, definitely going down to take out the bottom of the Trump news candle for sure. So right now, kind of in no man's land. Again, earnings are coming in mixed. Some are good, some are bad. That's what we're starting to see now. Some people are guiding, some companies are not. If you're on SPY, make sure you mark out 535, which is where we actually ended the day, right around that area. 540, 545, okay? Because those definitely played out. When it tried to sell off, it bounced off 535 multiple times, rejected off 540. And so in that area, and then of course right below that is the gap, okay? I would much rather fill the gap first if we were going to continue to move up. But really what I want to see happen is us get up into the 300 moving average to retest it and see if, you know, because that would actually fill the gap, moves up to 300, get us around that all-time high reveal, all that stuff right there, the 50 Fibonacci, to see if that's going to be the test to where we're going to fail at, because a lot of people are waiting to see if we can get a 50% retracement. And it's shocking to think we still have not got a 50% retracement yet. We hadn't made it up there. So again, mark those levels out. Now, of course, this to happen, the VIX finally closed below 30. We thought it was just camping out forever and ever, but it did close below 30. So that is a good thing right there. And so that's what we need to see. It needs to stay below 30 and start trending downwards, okay? Stay between that 22, 26, 27 area would be nice. That will give you a sustained rally, but as long as if it goes back above 30, and again, I can't sit there and predict tweets or anything else. There is a gap down there to fill. So if we get that volatility calm down, you'll start to see some regular type days where 1.5%, 1% actually seems like an anomaly, versus now it's like, oh, if it's 1%, we go, okay, that's a normal day. You know, that's where we're at with that right now. Now, looking at stocks like Meta, you got this double bottom. We'll see if it's going to play out. Again, I'm not expecting some, I don't know why people call them V-shaped recoveries. Without anything going on with these tariffs or anything else, I can't imagine that's going to happen. But again, you're starting to see stuff like double bottom start to happen. Higher and lows are starting to happen. And we'll see. This one has been on fire in the last few days. You can see big moves up. What I'm looking at to see what happens if they can retrace back to the 50 fibs, the golden pocket area. That's really what I want to see, okay? And we got ways to go until we get there. And I'm not saying we're even going to get there with some of these stocks, but they have been hammered, okay? They have been hammered. And so let's see if we get a real type of relief rally in this mess before we see a rejection or not. Now, Tesla, of course, this is what I was talking about. People were trying to short. They thought, oh, we're going in this gap. And then you saw calls just explode as soon as it came down to even start to challenge that gap. And I know people are like, yep, we're shorting. Let's go. We're going to fill this gap. And they got smoked because as soon as I came in, boom, this thing took back off, took out the opening high right there, and see you later, right? And so I think people try to short it later on too, and they end up getting smoked as well. So, you know, amazing to see it. Like I told you, never discount Tesla. I'm telling you, it doesn't move off all this other stuff that a lot of stocks move off of, okay? And so when you look at this one, we still didn't move up in this area, the shaded area we had talked about. And guess what we're in? Still in that box, still in that range, still sitting there. So again, big move up for today. Still got a nice little move to get back up in that shaded area if we do. It did close below this trend line right here. And so we'll see if it's going to come down, maybe fill this gap before moving back up. I'm not going to be surprised at all if it does that. Again, watch the options flow to see where it's going. A lot of calls were bought today on Tesla. And so, targeting anywhere from 265, 270, somewhere in there. And so just keep an eye on that one. And so, of course, that'll put us, we'll fill that shaded area. Also start moving up towards the 50 as well. So just keep an eye on the options flow on that one. It won't surprise me a bit either way if we move down and give up a lot of these gains. Now, NVIDIA, you can see they don't report till like May 28th. So like zero catalyst coming for this thing. And, it was a decent day. Of course, everything was green. But what do we got now? Gap below, gap above. Which one's going to fill first? Your guess is as good as mine. Let's be real about it, because there's no catalyst I can think of coming on board here. So it's either semis start to pick up, because I know we had Texas Instruments who might lift it up a little bit. They reported good. And there was another one. I can't think of who it is. We also have Intel reporting tomorrow, which I'll talk about in this one because somebody requested it. So, semiconductors start to actually finally get a lift up because they've been beaten down more than any sector right now. Then, of course, they can lift it back up. But until you start to get a real catalyst or a real market move, I just don't see this happening for this thing. I see maybe you get the gap fill up there, takes to 112, 115, maybe that inverse head and shoulder starts to play out. And then SoFi, again, we talked about this one. Now we're above that trend line right there. So looking to fill that gap, move up in that shaded area. Again, this one has earnings next Tuesday. And so that could be a catalyst if it wants to continue to move up. Can't wait to see how they talk about student loans. As we know, 5 million people are going to be reported to their credit agency. So that's not good. I'm not sure how that's going to affect SoFi or not. But again, this one right here, people ask me, that's what I meant to answer for you guys. How'd you get that shaded box, right? With the price right there? Because that was one of my boxes to buy. And what I do is I look for major fair value gaps and then try to pull the moving averages up, try to see if that's kind of aligning with the support or whatever it is. And so I'm looking for weekly, monthly kind of fair value gaps, align with some kind of support like that is. And you see it come down to the penny, tagged it, and then just took off from there. So again, the other box was kind of like if we're going to a recession, I saw that one playing out. But again, just start doing stuff like that. I believe in a lot of confluence, right? So find a weekly, find a monthly fair value gap, see if it aligns with either major moving averages. Also in a support resistance area would be awesome. And usually you'll get a bounce, and we got a great bounce, like I said, to the penny right there. So that worked out really well. As you can see, that's pretty good. So that's a monthly fair value gap. And I'll show you on some other stocks, like you'll see it on PLTR, which we talked about. That's what we've been marking these boxes out at. And when you hit them, you normally will get a bounce, or if you're moving into them, you'll see some form of resistance. So anyway, let me know what you're doing on that one. Now, Hood we had talked about, and I put this shaded box up here again. There's a weekly fair value gap right there, if I'm not mistaken, and we came up into it, got rejected today, came all the way back down, closed below the 50, but it does open back up. So this, obviously got the gap below it, might want to fill. But what you're seeing a lot of these, higher and lows, okay? Higher and lows, that's what you're looking at. And so if this does move back up, that'll give it a line to start going into 51 and then move up to this area right here. If it continues to start to move, anywhere from 51 to 55 right there. As like I said, you'll move into these big fair value gaps. You'll see it stop right there. That's what it'll start seeing some resistance, again, mitigating it. And another thing you start looking at are these fibs, right? It's another thing I meant to put on SoFi, and I didn't put it on there for you. But, like I'm looking for these 50 fib retracements, the golden pockets. See if we start to get up there, okay? That's where you should start to see some kind of pullback. That's what normally happens on these things. I also used that when I was pulling or making those shaded boxes on all these different stocks. And so, again, you go over to Uber. There's another one we marked out. And this has been rejected multiple times. I got a big rejection day, dropped to like 5% once it got up in there. And so if it gets back up into this time, I'm expecting actually to break through. But what did it run up into? It came into the golden pocket. And so like I said, that's where you'll normally see some form of rejection. But it's still doing what? Setting a higher and low. Okay. And like I said, these high flyers have been looking and holding up way better than the Mag 7 or 8, if you want to include Avgo in there. So, we'll see if this is going to come back down. But the next time it goes up in there, I'm actually expecting to do a breakthrough and hit up that trend line right there around like the 78 area. Now, going over to Palantir, there's another one. I grew this shaded box a long time ago, and that's a weekly fair value gap. And that's where we got up into, and we paused. And it was a big day, gapped up like a lot of stocks, but this one's above 200, 100, and 50 moving average. So, and this should be, you know, I don't know if it's going to, if it continues to go up for earnings, because I think it has earnings next week, if I'm not mistaken, but it's in a weekly fair value gap. It's got a daily fair value gap after that. So I'll be really, unless it gaps up, I'll be shocked if it just kind of trudges its way on through there without coming down and take some form of liquidity. But, you know, Palantir is on a whole nother planet at this point in time. It just trades on its own. I don't even see any, because obviously they're not looking at anything to do with the valuations or nothing. And maybe it's, like I said, they keep telling us the defensive plays. They keep hitting these defensive contracts or raising defense spending. And so, again, the market's going to tell you what they think is defensive and what's not. Again, that's why you're seeing why Netflix, Palantir, all these different stocks I showed you have been moving up when others have been moving down. Then going to Intel, one of the worst charts you'll ever see, one of the worst ran companies you ever see. I don't like it because it gets a lot of its money from the government. It's just a waste of our tax dollars. But I mean, look at that thing. Oh my God. I mean, look at the stock charts and all these other stocks from 2020 into 2021, it was up. It gets plummeted in 2022. And then it's, okay, cool. Maybe we fix things. No. And so 2024 was one of the greatest years in the stock market. And this thing was down how much? I mean, it got destroyed. So really, it's a 50-50 crapshoot tomorrow when it reports earnings, because it's literally sitting on the POC, the point of control. Look at that. So they can go either way. Remember, they're cutting 20% of the workforce, which is another reason I hate to put tax dollars in this thing. We're literally giving a company money in grants, like a $2 billion grant to stay in business, produce chips, and now they're going to lay off 21,000 people. We appreciate that. Instead of giving it to companies who want to come in this country, who are successful, and showing them to be able to manage their companies, I'd rather give it to them when they're creating jobs, right? This company's cutting down on very high-paying jobs, so I appreciate that. That's great. You know, but you see right here, I mean, if it gets good earnings, those little white lines right there, 22, 24.80, 28.96, like, and again, it don't have to be good. I mean, as Tesla showed, all you do is, you know, basically sit there and say, we're cutting jobs, the market don't love it, and then here's what our guidance is, and this is what we think we're gonna produce, because it's beat down, right? It's getting beat down into earnings. And so, you know, we'll see what happens on this one. I wish I had even more to say about it, but honestly, let's just get above the moving averages. I mean, this thing is like below all the major moving averages. So, you know, and I can't predict what in the world this thing is going to do on earnings. There's no way to predict that. I mean, look at that chart. That is a mess of a chart is what that is. There's just gaps everywhere. Oh, my goodness. So the good thing is it's not really running up into earnings. You know, there's all the moving averages. So for this one, if you're big in Intel, you really just got to get above that 200 moving average. That's really a big thing. We'll put a trend line in here for you just in case it decides it wants to move up, and see if we can get above that. I mean, the trend line goes pretty, you know, far back, but even that right there, I mean, to get that line, that's a good almost 20% move up for this thing, okay? And again, you can draw this trend line here, and we'll go back and actually extend it out, as you can see. So if it gets above that, I mean, it is bullish. Again, I don't know if they're planning on still giving them that $6 billion from the CHIPS Act. You know, I don't know if that's going to play out or not. I assume because it's an American company, we're just going to give it to them anyway. But yeah, I mean, I would strip them from that immediately as soon as they start laying people off, because it's supposed to be about creating jobs, not taking jobs away. But that's just my opinion on it. Anyway, looking at earnings tomorrow, American Airlines, we definitely want to hear from. Southwest Airlines, we definitely want to hear from. PepsiCo, want to hear from. Valero's another one. Then you go over to after hours, and you got Intel. Google's going to be another one. And then Vail at the bottom. So I'll be looking at those tomorrow. And then as far as any kind of red folder news, unemployment claims before the bell, core durable goods orders month over month, existing home sales, and new home sales like were way higher than what people expected. And people asked me about this, so I was going to go over this. Like, this is what the morning news brief looks like. Somebody asked, I actually had multiple people reach out and ask me about this. And obviously, I just summarize in the morning. It goes out every Monday through Friday between 8:30 and 9. What's going on, if the market's moving or not, why it's moving up, any red folder news and levels, gamma flips, and then we go through all the earnings, which of course during earnings season there's a lot in here. So try to put a lot of detail into that, whether they're going up or down. And then important news, obviously, like you saw, mortgage rates rising and stuff like that. And anything else coming out of the European Union today. So any important news you need to know in the market. And then, of course, the top performing sectors the day before. Then your sentiment, breadth, and trend indicators, which is important to know. That way none of it surprises you. And then, of course, you keep rolling down. We got option ranges, which have been a mess lately, because not even the option market, because these big 2 to 3% moves are able to actually give you an accurate estimate. But you know, today wasn't too bad. And then, of course, max pain, which I hadn't been able to use because, again, huge ranges. So hopefully when we start getting the volatility down, this will start getting back to normal. So that's the morning news brief. Hopefully that answers a couple of you guys' questions that were asking me about that. So anyway, please hit that like, subscribe button on your way out. Thanks for you guys who watch all these videos. I really appreciate it, especially if you're sharing the videos. Think about signing up for the membership. Less than McDonald's combo, and that's everything you get with it. One of them is the morning news brief I just showed you. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for another fun one.